Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we're going to talk about something called an accidental landlord. This is a person who woke up one day and realized they were a landlord. Not sure how that happened. Probably met somebody at a bar, went home with them, woke up the next morning and found out they were a landlord. Okay, so it's from a Fortune article. Homeowners who held on to a 3% mortgage rate are becoming accidental landlords. What does that mean?
So it means that they weren't planning on being a landlord, but it ended up that renting out their house was the better situation for them versus selling the house or living in it. So that happens when people need to move, whether it's for a job relocation or some other circumstance, and they're looking at, hey, I've got this mortgage. It's maybe, let's say, $2,000 a month, but if I rent out my house, maybe I get $2,700, $3,000 a month. So I'm covering all my expenses. I'm putting some money in my pocket. I'm building equity. I'm getting a tax deduction. So there are all these good reasons to be a landlord.
Okay, here's the first quote from the article. The era of lower than ever mortgage rates is long gone, and it's been replaced with rates hovering around 7%. But homeowners who locked in lower rates before or during the pandemic housing boom aren't selling. I like that, pandemic housing boom. In fact, some of them are becoming accidental landlords simply because they don't want to lose their low rates of the past. What people don't talk about a lot, we know that 42% of all homes in the U.S. are owned free and clear.
We do.
Now, a lot of those people they're owner occupants. They've lived in the house a long time. They paid off the loan. They live there. They don't have a payment. They're retired. That was one of the things, I've talked to a lot of people who get close to retirement. Like, hey, what's your big thing you want to do in retirement? I'm going to retire in 3 years because that's when my house will be paid off. And then my expenses will be I can cover everything. Okay? So, but how does that work with cash people? You've got some cash and you went out and bought a rental or two rentals.
Okay, but those are not accidental landlords, right?
No, but what I'm saying is, how is it different from a person with a 3% mortgage rate versus someone who's got cash? Is it that the cash person could just pull all the money out and use it? Maybe the person who put 3% down doesn't have as much equity because they have a loan on the whole thing.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of doesn't have as much equity. I think it's a matter of, if the cash person mortgages the house, then now they're going to be mortgaging it at 7%. And now it no longer makes sense. So.
Right, but the person with a loan certainly has less equity than the person who owns the same home cash.
Yes,
Meaning you could sell the house and take all the cash.
Yes.
And then go do something else with it.
Yes.
You may not be able to do that if you have a loan because you may have just got the house in 2020 or 21, and you may have got that 2.75% rate, and you may only have $50,000 of equity.
Right, but okay, so let's use your example. If you have $50,000 worth of equity versus my example of, it's a $2,000 a month mortgage and it's $3,000 a month in rent. So you're making $1,000 a month on your $50,000 investment. That's $12,000 a month on $50,000. That's not bad money.
Right, but you also don't have the ability to sell it and pull $400,000 out and put it into the stock market.
That's correct.
So you kind of are stuck in the situation where you have this really great investment that you can't really liquidate because you can't probably, like you said, you can't beat the fact that your equity is making. You're not going to get, when you pull your money out and you get $50,000, you're not going to be able to make, $1,000 or $12,000 a year on $50,000.
Right.
Right. There was a guy who made a big deal. I'm not going to say his name. He does videos like us. He has a ton more followers, but he has really bad advice. And he was literally telling people a few years ago, remember this? You should sell your house and put all the money into the stock market because the stock market gives you a higher ROI. And that was literally the stock market is not up 45% in the last 3 years, and the housing market is. And you could have made all that money with very little money in.
Right.
You would have literally gotten wrecked if you'd have listened to his advice 3 or 4 years ago. That's what he was promoting, back then.
Right. I mean, if you were to put it in an index fund, you're right. If you were to put it into specific stocks, could have gone either way. So yes. Another accidental landlord are people who inherit property. Yes. And I think that's something that we do need to talk about. So these are people who they've inherited their parents' house, their, some other relatives' house usually, and they're renting it out. They're not selling it. They're using it as a source of income.
Here's another quote from the article. That being said, the so-called lock-in effect is putting pressure on both sides of the market. There aren't as many buyers looking for new digs and not as many sellers looking to move up or downsize. If they'll get stuck with a mortgage rate more than twice as high as their old one. Do you think work from home is making it easier for people to like, hey, I don't have to move to Austin because my company said I can just work remote, and they just have 2 events a year I have to go to, so I fly into those and I just live in, I haven't moved from wherever I lived before.
Right. So, I mean, work from home is definitely helping people stay in their homes. It's also the reason why people went out and bought homes, because they were able to work from home and they were able to maybe purchase a home someplace away from where they were working that was more affordable, that fit their lifestyle more, maybe allowed them to be outdoors more or have a bigger yard or be closer to family or whatever it is that was important to them.
It's 2 quotes from the article. I thought this was interesting. Anyway, Michael Zuber, author of One Rental at a Time and former tech worker turned real estate investor, told Fortune that a 30-year fixed mortgage at a rate of 3% is without question one of the best assets most homeowners will ever have. Mm-hmm. And this is his quote: "They shouldn't sell, they should rent it out," Zuber said, adding that several people on Twitter have told him they're making around $1,000 a month after expenses from doing exactly that, sarcastically adding that the prospect of that doesn't suck.
Right. So remember, not only are these people making money on a monthly basis, but then, as time passes, we know that over time real estate tends to appreciate. So they're also the value of the home is increasing. Plus, remember that tenant is paying down their mortgage, so they're also gaining in equity. So they're getting money in their pocket every month. They're lowering the amount that is owed on the property every month, and the value of the home is increasing over time.
How many people have you talked to recently who have said they're thinking of selling, but they would normally sell, but then they just decide they're going to rent it out, keep it as a rental?
So, it's interesting that you say that. I actually had a conversation with someone this past week, and she was thinking of selling, but then we talked about it, and she decided she would rent it. And then we were discussing. She said, "Well, what about property management?" I said, "Look, it's only one house. You live 5 minutes away. Give it a shot and manage it yourself, and see how it goes." And the thing about being an accidental landlord, and this happens with a lot of people, like with her, the things that you have to keep in mind is, making sure that you vet your tenants, so that you get good tenants, making sure that you understand what your responsibilities are as a landlord. Things like maintaining the property are your responsibility. Things like improving the property you don't have to do, but you do have to maintain it, keep it habitable and in good condition. Things like that you have to learn. And you have to learn how to price your property properly. There are lots of ways to figure that out. A realtor can help you. You can go online and kind of figure it out. So those are things to keep in mind for those accidental landlords who are going to give it a shot and do this on their own.
One thing people don't realize, you can pay an agent like $1,000 and say, put it in the MLS, get me a tenant, screen him, and that leaves some money to pay like their agent, a couple $100, right? That brings them to the house. And then they can just take over the monthly management without paying a monthly fee. Because that's the thing when most people are like, how much is it going to cost me every month? And usually it's like 10%.
Right.
So if it's $2,000 rent, there's $200 a month going out in property management.
Okay, so I caution people about that. Okay, so here's my word of caution. If you're going to do that, and that's perfectly fine, hire a property manager to get you a tenant.
Oh, right.
Okay, do not just hire a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same animal. Okay, they do not have the same set of skills to vet that tenant for you, because that's what you're paying for. Look, you can get a tenant on your own on Craigslist. That's not a big deal. The big deal is getting a good tenant, getting a reliable tenant. That's the big deal, and that's the value proposition of a property manager. You can hire a property manager to just get you the tenant do the background check, help you with the lease, have you understand what your responsibilities are. And then once the tenant is in place, then you can take over the management and you're done paying for that property manager. And like Todd said, it's a few $100s. It's not a big deal, but make sure that you understand the difference between a real estate agent and a property manager. Not the same person, not the same set of skills. So do understand the difference and hire the right one for the job.
So basically you met somebody who was thinking of selling and you cut yourself out of getting a bunch of commission because you talked her into keeping the house.
I cut myself out of the whole thing.
And no property management.
Right. So I cut myself out of selling the house and out of property management.
Right. Okay. You're like the laziest real estate agent ever. Even at the prospect of making some money at the end of the day, you're like, no, you should just deal with it yourself. I don't want to. I'm too busy making all these videos. Hours a day of prep and in the studio.
Look, I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I gave her honest advice.
I'm kidding. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what did you think of our video today?
I clearly made no money in real estate, so I need some love on the video, people. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So,
if you know somebody that's thinking of selling or buying in Las Vegas, then you can reach out to us, and also anywhere in the country, because we have Referral Cloud, we can find you an agent. We've done it with a bunch of people who watch the channel already. We've had some people buying houses in other markets, selling houses in other markets. We have about 4,000 agents in our Referral Cloud network. And so we can find you a really good agent and just make a very easy handoff for you.
Absolutely. So was it fun? Did we make you laugh? Did we entertain you? Good. Like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave us a comment, tell us where you're watching from and what's on your mind. Please be nice to each other in the comments, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.